Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is slavery and the civil rights movement. And we're fortunate to have Alana McLaughlin to give us some information about the institution of slavery and, in a real sense, in celebration of the 150th year anniversary of the beginning and the end of the Civil War in the South. And of course, the topic slavery and the civil rights movement will fit into that subject this morning. And of course, Alana, let us welcome you to the show this morning, and let us remind our audience that you've been with us on a number of occasions, and you've got some very, very good information this time to talk about dealing with slavery and the civil rights movement. But before we get into that, let's talk about Alana McLaughlin. Let's have you to give us some information about your background, your education, and some of the things that were important in terms of eventually leading you to us this morning. And then we'll talk about slavery that lasted for some 300 years, from 1619 up until 1865. Let's do it from that perspective this morning.
Well, as Dr. Haney already said, my name is Alana McLaughlin. I was born August 27th, 2002 at Vanderbilt Hospital. I enjoy reading books. I brought one today, and I also am deeply involved in school activities, such as when I was in elementary school. I'm now in 5th grade. I go to John Early. When I was in elementary school, I started this bullying group to help children who get bullied. It's almost like a support group. And they could go somewhere where they could share their thoughts about what they think about bullying. And if they were a bully, they could come there to like do their own thing. And then they could just really express themselves in somewhere where they wouldn't be criticized. Mm-hmm. I'm also deeply involved in the church. I'm an acolyte, and sometimes I read the scripture. I really do like helping out. I recently got a certificate from the United Methodist Women, which said that I helped with the children and the youth. And it really makes me proud to think that I helped somebody, and I really like that feeling.
Very good. And of course, all of that simply prepared you in a real sense to give us some information about slavery and the Civil War this morning. And let's look at what they might refer to as the institution of slavery. That is the overall institution that lasted from 1619 up until 1865, some almost 300 years. Talk about slavery from your perspective.
Well, slavery is a thing where African American people had to work for Caucasian males or women. And in slavery, one famous case of slavery is the Sally Hemings story. She was born in 1773 and died 1835. Now, Sally Hemings was born on the Forest Plantation in Virginia. She was the daughter of Elizabeth Hemings, a slave and the concubine of John Wales, who was Sally's father. Sally Hemings was a mulatto and racially determined to be a quadroon. And she also was physically very light with long hair. In 74, with the death of her father and the settlement of his estate, Hemings, her mother, and her 5 siblings were sent to Monticello as slaves. Hemings became the servant to Martha Wales Jeffers, her half-sister who was married to Thomas Jefferson. Now, the case, which is really intriguing, I'm going to skip to the point. Sally Hemings was the concubine of former President Thomas Jefferson. Now, she actually she was pregnant with 7 of his children, but she had some miscarriages, so she only bore 4 of them. 2 of them, when they were free, they were born free. 2 and 4 of her children decided to pass off as white, and 2 years later in the census they were counted as white. So the other two were still segregated, and they decided to place them as black. All of them were mulattoes.
Mm-hmm. And so this, in a real sense, indicates, in a real sense, that the President of the United States not only had slaves, but he also had a relationship that produced individuals that you have described as mulattoes or mixed. individuals. And so that institution lasted up until 1865. Now, when we come back during the second segment, what we want you to do is to talk about the end of the institution of slavery and some of the things that were in a real sense associated with that. But I think the information that you've given us so far has demonstrated that slavery played a significant role in the early history of the United States, and there was a president, President Thomas Jefferson, who also was a great slaveholder. And we'll talk about that when we come back, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.